Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So Blaze have announced this C64 Collection 3, 13 more games that will release 29th of February 2024. I'm guessing next year must be a leap year. And this will release alongside Indie Heroes Collection 3 as well. So it's a month of Collection 3s. But in this video I'm going to look through all the games, play them all and give you my first impressions of what this cart is actually like. And is it worth buying and spending your hard-earned money on? Let's find out. Okay guys, before we get stuck into the games, let's have a look at those titles that are included in this collection. So we've got Summer Games 2, I'm not really sure we need any more of them, but anyway, that's there. We've got Boulder Dash, which is probably the most well-known game from this list. And I'm pretty sure there's lots of different variations of this game still being made today. You can probably find a collection on your Nintendo Switch, for example. Heavy Metal Paradroid, we're getting a kind of slightly modified version of the original Paradroid. I'm pretty sure it plays exactly the same, it's just really got a different graphical look. As you can tell from that screenshot there, it's got a kind of heavy metal look to it. But I'm pretty sure it is the same game. So that's quite cool, we're getting a kind of variation of that classic there. We've got Super Cycle, we've got Jumpman Jnr, Cyberdyne Warrior, Cybernoid II, The Revenge, Netherworld. Now a lot of these games guys I have played before, like Cyberdyne Warrior, Cybernoid II, Netherworld. Some of these are on the C64 Mini. A lot of these games have been gave away over the years on like the Commodore Format magazine, Zap 64. If you followed C64 back in the day, those were the magazines to have, and a lot of these games were gave away free on the cover tape that was on the magazine. So we've got Deliverance Stormlord II, Anarchy, Exolon, which looks really cool, doesn't it? Never actually heard of that one. We've got Street Sports Soccer, so we're continuing on that Street Sports sort of franchise, so to speak. So we had basketball, baseball, now we've got soccer. Happy days. And we've got the unbelievably, I don't know why, but here it is, breakdance. That screenshot itself just must say it all, to be honest. Look at that, what is going on there? I'm assuming breakdancing. Anyway guys, without further ado, let's play the games, give you my first impressions, and I'll give you some information as we go. Let's get stuck into it. Okay, first game up is Anarchy, and I definitely remember this being giveaway free with Commodore Format magazine, but it's been many years since I've played it. It's pretty much a puzzler shooting game. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. And the idea is to clear all the sort of different colour and style blocks that you see that I'm doing here. And there's also enemies or floating enemies going about which you can't touch or you will game over. You can shoot them and they turn into a block temporarily just to give you a little bit of respite. But yeah, the idea is basically to clear away all the blocks before you can move on to the next level. And obviously it's got that kind of puzzle element. You need to maybe have a little bit of strategy sometimes and where you actually shoot from, because you can't actually fire directly next to a block. You need to be like a block to the side of it before you can actually fire at it and clear it away. But I actually really enjoyed this one. I was quite surprised. It was quite addictive. It gets quite tricky, but I really enjoyed it, and I'd certainly be looking forward to playing this on my Evercade and utilise those save states as well, which would be fantastic. But yeah, this is a good start. Really decent game. I love this one. Okay, so this is Boulder Dash. I'm pretty sure most people must have heard of this game. It was originally released on the Atari 800, I think, and at the same time it was released on the C64 way back in 1984, 1985, round about then, and then it was released on pretty much every other format, and they are still making these style games today. You can buy a collection on the Nintendo Switch, for example, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure most people must have heard of this. And the idea is, in this level, is to clear away the diamonds, avoid the rocks, and then get to the exit once you've completed or collected all the diamonds. Pretty addictive stuff, but it is very hard as well. It's quite challenging, and when you see the later levels as well, it certainly kicks in a pretty steep challenge, but I guess with save states it should make things a little bit more bearable. But there's no doubt this is an absolute classic, and probably one of the main reasons why people will probably pick up this collection, and it's this game and probably Paradroid, I would guess. And I would say those two games on their own would probably be enough to buy a collection on Evercade. But obviously they have lumped a lot of other games, a little bit of a mix here and there, but definitely this game and Paradroid are the ones to have. Terrific stuff. Okay, next up is Breakdance, and I have to be honest right here, I don't know why Blaze have bothered to include this. You've got some options at the start here. You've got a simple face-off against another competitor, and yeah, they'll probably have to utilise the on-screen keyboard to start the game. I'm guessing that'll be the same with the Evercade version, and the idea is to copy the other dancers' moves by pressing like up, down, the fire button left and right, and then you just keep going. They add a move on every single sort of stage, and this is just plain dull for me, and not really this type of thing I want to play on any system. And it's boring. You'll play this maybe once and that'll be it. You might want to play a two-player game, I guess, with a friend, but for me, this is just plain dull. So the other option for a game is Battle the Crew here, and basically there's a whole load of dancers coming down here towards the bridge. You're the guy in the blue, and you basically need to copy what those dancers are doing to somehow destroy them and get rid of them, and you'll move on to the next one. If you don't manage to get rid of them, you will be pushed into the river by some imaginary force. This one makes no sense, it's utter bonkers, it's also completely crap. So I definitely got to a point where I was quite happy for the crew to push me into the river because I was completely bored, fed up, and I was really just taking the piss at this point. I couldn't care less. This game is garbage. So you can also choreograph your own dance move. I'm not really sure why you would want to do this. You can pick from a whole load of dances and then create this on this dance screen here, and then you can save it. I really don't see the point of this. Why would you want to do this? I have no idea. And there's also the option 5 where you can pretty much put it all together as one sort of large game and play it that way. But for me, this game is terrible. It really is terrible. You might want to play it once. Some people might get some enjoyment out of it, but for me, it's awful. It doesn't deserve to be on this collection. And the only way I can describe this game is with one word, 4 letters, begins with sh and ends in it. Okay, gladly moving on to something a lot better. This is Cyberdyne Warrior, kind of a run and gun style game where you need to collect, I think it's 5 droids on this initial stage, and there's also coins or money you can collect so that you can get some upgrades in the little shop. Lots of different enemies. This is a tough challenge. See, there's a droid at the bottom screen there, but everything pretty much on the screen can kill you at the very slightest touch. I felt at times that maybe the collision detection was a little bit dodgy on the game. I remember playing this back in the day, probably from Zap64 or Commodore Format magazine, and here you get to fight Jabba the Hutt as well, which is pretty cool. But this game's really good fun. I think it will certainly benefit massively from having save states on the Evercade devices for sure. I think on its own it's very frustrating, it is pretty tough. But I certainly enjoyed it, and I kept coming back to it and playing it again. If you hit that skull, things will go dark and you'll see absolutely nothing. So this is a very challenging game. Okay, moving on to Cybernoid II, and if you played the first game from C64 Collection 2, you'll know what to expect here. A very stiff challenge, pretty much more of the same in the sequel here. And it's a lovely looking game, great graphics, I love the music as well. Unfortunately you can't have sound and music like the first game, you have to choose between either the sounds or the music, which is a little bit of a shame, but that was pretty typical of a lot of games on C64 for some reason. But a decent game, just very challenging. Thankfully we've got those save states on Evercade that will help make progress. Just like the first game, I utilised them quite a lot to actually make progress. I probably saved after every single screen, and it made a massive difference to actually finish some of the levels. But a decent game, especially those that love a challenge. Okay, so this is Stormlord II. Personally, I'm not really a big fan of these games. I felt like the character movement was extremely sluggish and I didn't really enjoy playing it. I thought that it was far too tough and unfair to the actual game player. And I guess the idea is pretty similar. Like, I think you need to sort of rescue these fairies for whatever's going on. And the character movement is exactly the same, very sluggish. I think you're supposed to push up continuously on the D-pad or a joystick, I guess, if you're using that to have your character jump or kind of float jump over the obstacles here so that you don't die. But I found it extremely difficult to do so and probably lost life after life. Thankfully, you do get a lot of lives, but personally, I really wasn't feeling it with this game. I know there's a lot of fans out there that are looking forward to playing this, but personally I just think this sequel seems a little bit disjointed to me. This section here, pretty much the screen stands still until you actually clear all the enemies that keep coming from left and right at you. But nah, I really wasn't feeling this one. I'd rather play the first game, but even then I probably wouldn't rather play that either. That's just my thoughts. I know there's a lot of fans out there of this game, but personally I really don't feel it at all. Okay, so this is Exolon, and there's no doubt about it, this is one of the best looking games I've seen in ages on the C64. Lovely and colourful graphics, and apparently I think some of the sort of game, and especially the main character, has been taken from Stormlord. I think it's obviously the same creator of that game. And it looks to me as if this game was maybe initially created on the Spectrum and then ported over to the C64. It just kind of looks more like a Spectrum game than a C64 game, and I'm not really talking about the colours, I'm just really meaning the actual sprite and the sprite movements. Colours wise, it probably looks more like an Amstrad game, which it was also ported to, and so it's a very unusual looking game. It doesn't really scream C64 to me, but I actually quite enjoyed this one. It was pretty cool. It is pretty challenging at times. I think you hold down the fire button to unleash the grenades and then you collect more as you go, but these kind of floating balloon things were pretty annoying and they just pretty much keep coming at you till you make progress to the next screen, so your best idea is just to keep on moving. But I definitely like this one. I thought it was really decent, and I'll be looking forward to playing this when it comes out on the cartridge proper. And this is surprising to me because I've definitely never heard of it and had never played it before. Okay, so this is Jumpman Jnr, and it's pretty similar to Jumpman. Now, partly though, Jumpman Jr is actually the sequel to the original Jumpman game. Kind of sounds like the wrong way about to me, but it's still the same idea. It's still pretty tough. It still has all that same annoyances about the first game. Sticky ladders, can't really fall from a height, the annoying dot that comes across the screen and seems to constantly just spawn right where you are, which is pretty annoying. I definitely enjoyed playing Jumpman, but the frustrations sometimes really annoyed me. But an excellent game, pretty addictive stuff, no doubt about it. And I guess it's quite cool that we're getting this one onto the Evercade as well. Just beware, it is pretty frustrating at times, and yeah, that is just annoying. You can also change the speed of the character as well. You've got an option between 1 to 8, I think it is, whereas 1 is stupidly fast and 8 is incredibly slow. Not really sure which is best to play through. 1, it just felt ridiculous, it just was unplayable, but it was kind of funny, whereas 8 was just even more hilariously funny. I guess I'll just stick to 4 and play it as normal, but I'm still crap at it anyway. Okay, on to Netherworld, and I'm pretty sure this one was on the C64 Mini, and the idea is to go around the levels, the space looking levels, collecting the diamonds so that you can complete each stage. You need to avoid those dragons that are blowing some kind of a lethal bubbles that makes no sense. There's portals that you can use to go from one part of the space to the other. I just kind of wish there was a count of how many diamonds I need to collect. I couldn't see, maybe I missed it, but I couldn't see how many I was supposed to actually collect on the level. I guess you just keep going and collect as many as you possibly can until the level does end. But the toughest part of this is the time limit. It just keeps going down. You can collect hourglasses to give you extra time, but I got a little bit frustrated. I was enjoying the game, I just wasn't entirely sure what I was supposed to do. And I think I collected all the diamonds in one level, then I wasn't sure where to go next. I guess it's just me, I was probably doing something wrong. But it's a fun game nonetheless, and I'm looking forward to playing this properly, I guess, on the Evercade, utilising those save states. But pretty decent, just a bit weird. Okay, so this is Heavy Metal Paradroid, or sometimes known as Paradroid Metal Edition, and it probably isn't that much different to the original Paradroid. I think it's just some of the graphics have changed, some of the sort of borders that you see here have changed slightly. It's more or less the same game. Now I might be wrong, there might be more additions that I'm not aware of because I'm not an expert in this game at all. I've played it a lot over the years. I've played it from free games that were given away on magazines, played it on a C64 Mini, still not particularly great at it. The idea is basically to clear or defeat all the rogue robots on each level or each stage on the ship that you're on. As you can see there, it's pretty cool. There's also a map that you can see. There's different things you can do. You can sort of possess the other robots, take them over and destroy them. I never really worked that part out though. I'm not really entirely sure what I'm supposed to do. I also played the Amiga version fairly recently, and I think the C64 version arguably is better than the Amiga version, which is not that common. It certainly does happen from time to time, but in this occasion I think the C64 version is definitely the better one to have. I really enjoy playing this game. It's probably one of those ones you're definitely going to make progress by utilising the save states on Evercade, and there's no doubt about it that this game is regarded as a classic from the C64 days, so it's great that we have this on the collection, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will probably just buy this cart just to play this game. no doubt about it. Okay, Street Sports Soccer. I don't know where to start with this one. Certainly a mixed bag with the Street Sports series. I think the baseball game was a bit rubbish. The basketball game, I kind of enjoyed. It wasn't too bad at all. Soccer, I'm not sure if it's one of those games that's so bad that it's good or it's just plain bad. I'm not sure. It isn't great. Let's be honest, it isn't great. It's basically three-a-side in the backyard or back school here or wherever it is. There's another setting you can play in the park, I think, where you're surrounded by a castle or something. I don't really know what's going on, but the moves are very basic. You tap the button, I think you can pass to your opponent, or when you're near the goal, you do a kind of shot. The longer you hold down the ball, I guess the higher the shot will go. Yeah, it's not great. It's barely playable. I don't even think there's like slide tackles or anything like that. You can try and intercept the ball by running in front of the other players. You can also control the goalie, but it's a bit hit and miss. Honestly, it's not great at all. It's certainly up there with Breakdance for the worst game on this collection. It's barely playable, it's kind of laughably bad, I guess, but it is what it is. It's another game that you probably wished you'd never played. Okay, so this bit did make me laugh. I had the ball as the goalkeeper and I thought maybe I'll just take it for a run, take it all the way up and try and score, thinking I'm being a smarty pants, and all the other players are avoiding me over the other side for some reason. Don't know what's going on. I tried to shoot, yep, and it passed back to one of my other players who then tried a lob and missed. But a little bit weird. It would have been nice if the goalie would shoot instead of when I pressed the button he tried to pass to the other players. Weird as heck. Anyway, it is what it is. I completely lost both games. Okay, on to Summer Games 2. Honestly, I'm not really sure why Blaze bothered putting these games on here. It was quite nice having one of the other games, but it's not a game I play often or at all, and I'm not really sure who actually does. Okay, just like the other games, there's a number of events that you can choose from. You can play all of them, you can choose one, or you can just do some practice. You can play with a friend as well, if you like. I think it's just basically passing the controller between each other. And the events all differ in quality. Some are quite enjoyed, some I just got frustrated with. It's usually a mix of pressing up and down at the same time, pressing left and right, or doing a combination of buttons to actually get going. This is the Roan, which is basically trying to get some type of rhythm going by pressing left and right, but it gets frustrating and I definitely had finger fatigue by the end of 30 seconds. I was really struggling and I wasn't enjoying it at all. So I definitely enjoyed the Javelin. That was probably the most fun event to actually play. Probably the easiest one as well, although obviously my first throw wasn't particularly great. But it is all about understanding the controls. And I think in this occasion it was really just a matter of pressing the right button a number of times to build up speed and then pressing the fire button to unleash the Javelin as far as you possibly can. I think I probably mastered this one, but the rest of the events I probably need a little bit of practice, or a lot more practice I should say. And the least said about the horse jumping event, the better. I really did not have a clue what I was supposed to be doing. I knew what the controls were, but obviously I wasn't timing the jumping correctly at all and falling flat in my face every single time. So the high jump wasn't too bad. I think the idea is to try and build up enough speed, then press up and the fire button at the same time to make your jump, and you obviously need to time it right as well. Then we moved on to the fencing, which was pretty boring, to be honest. I wasn't really enjoying it much at all, and it's probably not one I'm going to come back and play again. It's just kind of boring. And moving on to the cycling, it was pretty similar to the Roan event, although this time you had to press up and down in a kind of rhythmic fashion to try and build up speed, which I've obviously struggled massively. It just looks like I haven't ever ridden a cycle before. The controls are a little bit strange, but it's all about trying to get that timing right to actually make some progress. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this one either. And so the last event is the Whitewater kayaking, which actually looks fantastic. I think the graphics are really nice on this one, but it's really tricky to actually control. Certainly seems to be a mixture of pressing up and down, left and right, and utilising the fire button to sort of waft your oar to sort of get some momentum in a certain direction. And some of the sort of gates that you go through, you have to actually go through backwards. If you can see the R on the gate there, that means that you have to go through backwards. But it's really tough. There's no doubt it's very, very tough. This probably was one of the best looking events, probably the best designed events on the collections. Probably not the most enjoyable, but I like the idea of it. It certainly seems good. Not sure it works, but it is pretty good. Okay, this is Super Cycle, clearly inspired by something like Hang On or Super Hang On, and even though there are opponents on the screen here, it really is a battle against the clock on the bottom left hand side of the screen there. Now, you can go through all the gears and push the up button to go as fast as you possibly can, but that is probably completely unhelpful, because as soon as you hit a bend, you're going to crash. It is impossible to react in time, so you probably need to watch your speed a little bit and maybe even keep it to around about 70-80 miles per hour so that you actually make it round those bends. Otherwise, forget it, you're going to crash every single time. Now obviously this first sort of section I'm just flooring it and going for the best, but in the second section I took it a lot easier and I finished the stages a lot easier playing it that way. Obviously that's the recommended way of doing it. If you get to further stages, I'm sure you're going to have to go a heck of a lot faster to make progress and reach the checkpoints in the time limit. But I quite enjoyed this game. Once I figured out what to do, I really enjoyed playing it. It is pretty decent. Okay guys, my final thoughts on C64 Collection 3. I think the cart is okay. There's a reasonable collection of games, some really poor ones, but there are some really good games here. Probably some that you would label as classics of their time, such as Boulder Dash and Paradroid. Those are definitely amazing games, excellent stuff, and regarded as classics by the C64 community. Now and even back in the day. Excellent games, and I suppose I would probably buy the collection if they were the only 2 games on the cart. But the rest of the games, certainly a mixed bag. Some of the games was okay, some of the events were fun, some were just frustrating and pretty annoying to play through. Not really a big fan of these type of games at all. Super Cycle was really good. Once I got a hang of how to actually play the game, I actually quite enjoyed it. Jumpman Jnr was good, but frustrating at times. Cyberdyne Warrior, really good looking game, just very, very tough. Cybernoid II, exactly the same, great looking game, but extremely difficult. Netherworld was okay, I quite enjoyed it to a point, I just wasn't entirely sure what was going on. Stormlord 2, I'm not a big fan of that game at all. Same with the original game, wasn't a fan, I just find the controls extremely clunky to play through. Anarchy, I thoroughly enjoyed, I definitely like my puzzle style games, and that one was really good and certainly surprised me. Exolon looked great, fantastic, maybe not amazing game to play through, but it was still fun at the end of the day, and a new one for me. Street Sports Soccer, absolutely awful, maybe so bad it was good, I'm not entirely sure. And Breakdance, I just don't get why that's on here at all, because it's absolutely dreadful. Blaze, I certainly question your sanity for including that game. It's terrible. Overall, guys, the collection is not bad. I'm sure most people will probably buy it for those classics, Paradroid and Boulder Dash, no doubt about it. I would buy that just for those 2 games alone. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.